This is Jennifer Hale, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. And, I should go.
The chances we continue all the way to episode 393 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. I can speak. Welcome the rich man. He's hard for you to miss. His butt keeps getting bigger, so there's plenty there to kiss. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off looking around with the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
There are fireworks going off down the street from me, and I don't know why. Because it's
for us.
It's October 24th. So like,
oh no!
Somebody's celebrating United Nations Day because that's what's on my calendar.
Yeah, it's the first day of Diwali. It's the New Year in India.
Oh, that could be.
That's not on my calendar.
Somebody posted about it, and a bunch of guys that I know working at tech companies. We're like, yeah, we have a remote office in India and everybody's gone or something like that. So it's like, oh, okay. And we actually have the library I work at, that community has a lot of people from India that live there, and they're very sweet people.
Yeah, we have a decent population where I live too, so maybe that is what it is. So yeah, good for them.
Yes.
Yep. So happy Diwali, I guess.
Yeah. Whatever the proper celebratory greeting is.
Yeah, and I probably didn't pronounce it right. So, but I'm not Indian, so
yeah,
I do my best.
Yeah, forgive us for our clunky American accents.
Yes.
I love your movies and your food.
Yeah. So got just a little bit of news. So first up, some convention related news, because I'm already looking to next year. And from the looks of it, I'm gonna have to put Lexington Toy and Comic Convention back on the schedule, at least for next year.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. That's a nice
considering at the moment, guest announcements include Anson Mount, aka Black Bolt from the MCU, or for you Star Trek fans, he's Captain Pike in one version.
Yep.
Alan Tudyk appears everywhere. He's in everything. Sam,
if you haven't checked out,
if
you haven't checked out Resident Alien yet, it's worth it.
Yeah. Sam Raimi. Yes, that's Sam Raimi, the director, the guy who brought us the Evil Dead franchise and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That's Sam Raimi.
The guy that we can blame for all this, or credit for all this.
Yeah.
Depending on your point of view.
So I fully expect at some point between now and the con, which is in mid-March, to see Bruce Campbell on the guest list.
I wouldn't be too surprised if his name does not pop up on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. And those two go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Yep.
And then I'm very excited about this. Steve Burns. Steve from Blue's Clues.
Yeah. I remember when you were so jealous of me when he was coming to FanX.
Yep.
And yeah. And now I'm like, well, there you go. There's someone there. He's showing up.
It's gonna be sort of in my neck of the woods. So yes.
So you go. You go and give Steve a hug or whatever.
And if you think I'm not going to be watching the Blue's Clues movie, that's coming out, you're sorely mistaken.
Yeah, as far as kids programming goes, like the whole gamut of it that you have throughout the years, Blue's Clues was pretty decent.
Yep.
My youngest sisters enjoyed watching it when they were little, and during the summer I would watch it with them because I gotta watch. I'm taking care of them in the morning, so like, well, if it has to be, if I have to watch something, it might as well be this. So Blue's
If
Clues.
I have my choice between a purple dinosaur and a blue dog, I'm going blue dog all the time.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes. Although there, Miss was it Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper, and they had baby paprika. I'm like, that is so adorable. I'm like, I like baby paprika.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like from a scientific standpoint or a cooking standpoint, doesn't make sense, but we're not going to question it.
Nope. We don't care about sense at this point.
Nope.
And I mean, of course, the mail song. Come on.
Of course, yeah.
Here's the mail, it never fails.
Oh my goodness.
If you
bought it, make my tail.
Right.
Yeah. When the when the movie comes out, we may have to dedicate some time to talking about Blue's
We can talk Blue's Clues. I'm
we
not
can talk Blue's Clues.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I'm gonna more than likely put Lexington back on a rotation at least for next year. So, or as I was telling Chauncey last night, returning to the scene of the crime, although at the moment Colin Baker is not going to be there, but this was the con that Colin offered me his fingernail clippings. So
I was wondering. You said crime, I was like, oh yeah, now I remember.
yeah, so even if he's not there, I will reminisce for us both. So yeah, comic conventions for 2023 looking exciting already.
Yes.
And we've got some trailers. So we got our first look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, speaking of 2023 and more specifically my birthday, or I should say the day before my birthday.
Oh, they picked it special for you, Rachel.
They did. So I mean, it's Ant-Man, it's Paul Rudd, everybody loves Paul Rudd, so but we've got obviously our gang from Ant-Man and the Wasp all back together. Cassie obviously grown up quite a bit because she didn't get snapped, so she grew up while Scott was stuck for 5 years, so growing into a quite the little genius, it seems. So, and then of course Kang. So how Kang fits into all of this, to be determined. So that's exciting. Happy early birthday to me. And then coming very, very soon, actually, next end of next week. Oh my goodness, how is November next week? End of next week, the Crown season 5 will be out on Netflix. And as I said when I posted it on our Facebook, I've got 2 words for you: revenge dress. That's all you need to know. It is the early 90s that we're looking at here, so
it's when it gets juicy. Although I admit I'm a wee bit behind. I still need to watch the last season. So I will get to that. I've been meaning to get to that. I just haven't, but I will.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Yes.
And this is the time period that I remember, so I was a kid, and I mean, I didn't really understand everything, but I think as an adult, I'll look back and like, oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep. So should be quite the juicy season to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really it for the news. So, but we do have quite a bit of feedback actually.
Yes.
So we've got feedback from Shalane. And she says, forgot to mention Robbie Coltrane was in Brave. He played the Short King. Which, what do you think about it? Is kind of
all of them, other than
yeah, it's kind of not an oxymoron, but kind of a, I don't know what the word it is I'm looking for.
Accurate
because he
description?
because he was such a big guy to play such a short character, so
Mm-hmm.
yes.
juxtaposition.
was-
There you go.
Yes.
Yes, but he also played the one that showed off what was underneath the good
The kilt.
Scotsman's kilt
Yeah.
Yes.
at the beginning of the movie. Later, they all do it, but this one,
Yes.
he flips it up and says, "Face your eyes."
Uh-huh.
And,
Yep.
that shot was in the trailer, so everyone remembers that.
Yep.
Unless you've blocked Brave out of your brain, which I don't know, some people might have, but
Yeah.
that's up to them.
And then she mentions the things that she knows Angela Lansbury from, like Beauty and the Beast, Anastasia, But Not So Broomsticks, Mary Poppins Returns, Pirates of Penzance, and Sweeney Todd, which is a good slice of her work.
Yes, right.
It's a small slice, but it's a good slice.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And she says, anyway, I love She-Hulk. She is my favorite MCU girl after Yelena and Kate Bishop. She says, I think I should cosplay her for a Comic-Con or do a Disney bound on my next Disneyland trip. Well, unless you're going to paint yourself green and actually be She-Hulk, a Disney bound might be easier. So somewhere the cosplay companies and the makeup companies that make like the body, or like they see these movies and TV shows coming out, like, okay, we got a production on that green, particular shade of green.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could do a bodysuit.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be scrubbing out less green goo out of your skin.
Yes.
I'm just saying that.
I saw there's a TikToker I follow. She does Gamora, and she recently showed how she managed to turn a pair of like tights or something into arm covers so that she wasn't having to do the body paint and stuff. So Shalane, if you would like that tutorial, I will send it to you.
That one scene,
because it would also apply for She-Hulk.
That one scene from the Beatles movie Help keeps coming to mind. This group you're hanging out with painted you all these weird colors and trying to wipe off said paint.
Yes. Although I need to back up on her feedback here about her Angela Lansbury bit. I'm like, Shalane, you were too young, because by the time you came along, our grandparents were fairly old and infirm, and I don't know how much you remember Grandma Mary, but Grandma Mary's favorite show for a long time was Murder, She Wrote, and I watched quite a bit of it with her, and so that's what I always knew Angela Lansbury from. I was like, she's the Murder, She Wrote lady, but now she's in all these other things. So I just remember watching that show with my grandma when we would go see. I'd go see her. It was all like Sunday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And we would watch it. So
or if you were lucky enough to if you ever were stuck home from school, your parents let you watch TV and you caught it on syndication somewhere.
that too.
Oh yes, It's on syndication early in the mornings.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure like a station like USA or TBS showed it
Yeah.
in rerun format during the day.
Yeah.
So I have vague recollections of that. So
oh yes, and the crossover episodes with her and Magnum or at least Tom Selleck guest starring.
Yeah. That was an interesting plot. Oh my. And then she says it was she says plus it was fun to have Wong around. Yes, it's always fun to have Wong around.
Yes.
Or as Megan would say, or as Madison would say, Wongers.
At this point, Wong is just holding the MCU together.
He is the glue holding the MCU together, whether he likes it or not.
He's the
everything around him. Everything around him could be collapsing, but he's there with the chicken wire and the chewing gum, and he's making it work.
Yeah, he's their MacGyver.
Yep. You know, he could have easily given Strange back the title of Sorcerer Supreme once they got de-snapped, but no, he insisted, so yeah, it's on him.
Oh, that's his business.
Yep. Thank you, Shalane. And then we've got some feedback from Aaron. So Aaron returns with feedback. He says, "Hello, my five-ish hosts."
Hello.
Hello. I finally got around to watching the She-Hulk season, as I typically wait until the seasons finish and then watch them straight through. Unfortunately, I was not a fan of this show. In fact, I think it might be the only show thus far I flat out didn't like.
And you would not be the only one in the world, my friend.
Nope. He continues, "Perhaps my biggest gripe is that it wasn't what I was expecting nor what I wanted. When it was announced, I wasn't thrilled about another Hulk character, but I was excited about it being a legal drama. A superhero show where the premise is superhuman courtroom proceedings sounded great, but there wasn't much to be found yet." That was a complaint we had as well.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we got Mr. Immortal and Runa, and their stories were great, but that was about it. The others, like Leapfrog, had to be solved not by Jennifer's brains and wits, but with her fists, and I wasn't a fan of that. In fact, I think the show needed more of Mallory and Nikki, two fun characters that dealt more with what I wanted. It kind of reminded me of season 2 of Daredevil, where I was rather bored of Daredevil and Elektra hunting down the Hand, but loved every minute of Foggy and Karen going to court to defend the Punisher. The supporting cast shouldn't outshine the title character. This was painfully pointed out in the finale. We get an unnecessary battle royale setup just for the show to be hijacked solely for the purpose of telling us that the fight was unnecessary and it should have been in a courtroom instead. Yeah. Yes, I agree. And the fact that the writers knew this and tried to make a joke out of it was a nail in the coffin for me. I hated the finale so much. For a show that keeps reminding us that Jennifer is the main character, they make this less apparent by the constant parade of cameos. Jennifer even brings it up herself in one of the fourth wall breaking moments, but that just makes the situation that much more distracting to me. Making a joke about the mishandling of your own TV show on the show to the audience isn't funny, but that much more frustrating. In fact, I feel like that is my main issue with the fourth wall breaking. Granted, I didn't know that was an aspect of the character going in, so it was a little unexpected, but with the oncoming reintroduction of Deadpool, can't wait, this just seemed like a weaker substitute. Our villains were kind of weak. Titania was intentionally annoying, and I understand that's the purpose of the character, but there should have been more of her than annoying influencer / celebrity. Roth, I was greatly anticipating the return of simply because, despite not being a big Hulk fan, I think The Incredible Hulk is a severely underappreciated movie in the MCU. I just wish the character wasn't so jarringly different. This isn't to say there wasn't any good in the show. First and foremost, Tatiana Maslany, who I haven't seen in anything yet. Orphan Black has been on my watch list for quite a while. It's such a joy here. I may not have loved all the attempts at humor, but I could tell she had so much fun living this character. She handles the material flawlessly, and I look forward to seeing more of her work. Also, the aforementioned supporting cast really shined. I really wish Mallory could get her own series focusing on non-superhero lawyering. The episode with Daredevil's return is easily my favorite episode. Cox's Murdoch has always been great. Seeing him in more lighthearted moments was nice. I would have loved to see more of him and Jennifer going head to head in court or just hanging out. Jennifer ruining Daredevil's big hallway fight was hilarious, and seeing a superhero do the walk of shame made me lose it. But my favorite part wasn't like being a female lawyer. Twice the work, half the recognition you're constantly being asked what it's like to be a female lawyer. I about wet myself laughing, and I really wish there was more of this. Well, enough of my essay. I just kind of went to town here. As always, thanks for the great content, and take care, Aaron. P.S. Just about to start watching Power of the Doctor. Can't wait to hear all of your thoughts next week. Which, I don't think we're doing Power of the Doctor next week, but it will be soon.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need time to compress. Holly and I spent like 20 minutes before recording talking about it.
Doing a debrief.
Just trying to get the initial like squee and excitement out of our system. So if you're a Patreon supporter, you will hear some of that. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until we do our proper Power of the Doctor episode. But no, some of your feel free to write an essay. That's perfectly fine. We will take it. And definitely great. Some of your criticisms, we definitely were in the same boat with you.
Oh, yes.
In our review. So it was.
I mean, your criticism about how we were told it was going to be like a courtroom drama, and then it turns out that the people they hired to run the show they admitted themselves they suck at doing courtroom drama, and I'm like, oh well, there's a sign that you probably didn't hire the right people to begin with, but
you couldn't have asked David Kelly for advice. I mean, I was kind of thinking, a little Boston legal setup type.
It's like where's the people who did all the writing for Ally McNeil?
That too,
Where are they?
Boston legal. Where are they?
It's like this was a Sex in the City knockoff, but done poorly. Because that's about all that it was.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. There were definite aspects of it that I really liked. I mean, when they did humor right, it was hilarious. Good. And I was like, I had tears in my eyes just talking about it last episode. Some of my favorite, humorous moments. But there are some moments where it's like, the joke's not really landing the way you thought it was going to. I enjoy the fourth wall breaking. I think that even the to me, I think the stopping the soon to be battle royale in the middle of it and going off the chain and fixing it and pointing out just how horrible of an idea it isn't really a whole lot different than Deadpool doing the time travel thing in Deadpool 2. Unfridging his girlfriend, which fridging is an awful thing in itself, but then him going and like killing the Deadpool in Wolverine and then killing Ryan Reynolds sitting down with the script to Green Lantern. So, it's like
and see some of that stuff. This is the thing with that between Deadpool and She-Hulk is like they kind of set that up with Deadpool with the marketing, because not everybody knows that Deadpool this is what he does in the comics, and I don't know that a lot of people knew that about She-Hulk. I mean, I did, because I'm married to a Marvel encyclopedia, but and I knew that she had a little bit more quippy sense of humor, but she was and she just took things in stride, and there was a lot of that. I feel like the marketing did not focus on that. Didn't really prepare people like this is what you should expect. It's different than what you're used to with your Marvel stuff. and she does in that finale say like, well, here, Marvel does this formula, but they haven't really done that formula in the TV shows. And it kind of feels like, oh, well, you are following the formula, but with the shows, you pull the rug out from under us at the end and do a bait and switch that, kind of to your detriment, honestly. And so it's kind of like, she's mad that, oh, why can't I have the formula? And I'm like, well, honey, you got the formula, you just don't realize it. And so, yeah, I think there were some marketing missteps here. And just, they could have had a lot more fun with it. They just chose not to, which is really sad because She-Hulk is a hilarious character in the comics. She's also a badass. I don't want to call her the female Deadpool, because that's not what it is at all. She is her own thing, and that is why people love her. And that, I think, is why people are kind of upset about the people who are very critical of it, because they know She-Hulk from her original run and since then, and they are fans of She-Hulk, and they didn't get She-Hulk in the She-Hulk they know in this TV show, which is unfortunate, because that was one thing I was really looking forward to, and it just was not there. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's like, Kevin, you gotta have a chat with your people here. Yeah. Like, are you in charge or not? Come on, be the boss.
We mean the actual human Kevin, not the robot.
Right.
Yeah, even that was like, this is awkward.
I thought it was hilarious, but that's just me. But I'm also not a comic encyclopedia. I don't read the comics, so I don't really have a whole lot of. I don't have foreknowledge for a lot of these characters, so my expectations are a lot different than people who have that knowledge. So yeah, it's who you are and where you're coming from, and it's all perspective, really. So, but yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from in your feedback, Aaron, though, and you're totally justified in your opinions. So
absolutely. But thanks for the feedback. That was yes, and write an essay anytime you feel like you need to.
Absolutely.
We will read it.
Yes,
we love it.
We will read it, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep. Oh, that is it for our feedback. So now we are pivoting to Chrissy's wheelhouse.
Yes, indeed. Funny story. So I fully
with another
intended on
Studio
rewatching
Ghibli.
Yes.
Miyazaki film.
Miyazaki.
Funnily enough, the movie that beat out Lilo Stitch and other movies for Best Animated Picture feature film, yet our main character voiced by the same actress.
Yes. So, this is, Spirited Away, if you haven't figured it out yet, from, thumbnails and whatever else we had put up to say, hey, our podcast is out. This movie, it is incredible. It is just like, even if you're not into anime and you don't give a crap about anything Japanese, this movie is so amazing. Like, even normies, quote unquote, love this movie. And you don't have to know anything really about Japanese culture or history. I mean, it helps if you do, but you can still enjoy this, and a lot of people do, as evidenced by just the acclaim that it's had since it was released
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Jeez, oh Pete.
20 years and some change.
And I kind of feel like this may have been kind of a wake-up call to Disney at the time, because some of their stuff just really. I mean, Lilo and Stitch we loved, as we talked about.
Yeah, but that was also the Disney Renaissance was puttering out at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. And it was like, oh, like people were saying, oh, animation isn't just kids stuff. animation can actually be, and I mean, and I wouldn't call Spirited Away like, ooh, it's R-rated, you know, you can't, it's not. But this is something like adults without kids can enjoy. You can adults with kids, you know, families can enjoy. Kids can enjoy on their own, and there's a lot of levels to it, and everybody's going to get something different out of it, and it's all going to be enjoyable.
I mean, kind of like Lilo and Stitch, there is some humor in here that if you've got some kids that like kind of gross stuff, like, you know, with like, you know, we talked about like Stitch picking his nose with his tongue and stuff like that. There's some gross stuff in here as well, especially with like the big stink monster, you know, muddy monster spirit. You know, that entire like sequence, I'm like, I'm glad this is not smell-o-vision, because I'm sure it would have been awful.
And you get that, and that comes across in the animation and everything else, which is a hallmark of Ghibli movies, but especially this one is like a prime example of that. Is, you know, movies are a visual and an audio medium, but you know, something like the smell of something, like how gross it is, that comes across 100% in this. But you know, so like even those things that you can't really, that you wouldn't think you'd be able to experience through a medium like film, just by looking at the, you know, the way they portray it, it's just, yeah, you are right there with them, and you're in this bathhouse and this thing is coming through, and you're just like, oh, gross, no, Chihiro, do not climb in that, ew, no, but then she does, like, and it's like,
it opens its mouth and like little vapors come out that are like kind of brownish, and everyone else in the bathhouse has got like, you know, handkerchiefs and stuff covering their faces. Like,
but it's like, but it's also gross in kind of a beautiful way, which sounds ridiculous, but there you go. So I was gonna say, like, I fully intended on rewatching this movie this weekend, and I just life got busy and kids and stuff. But I think I've seen this so many times that I'm like, I'll be okay. I'll be able to talk about it, and just it's sort of, you know, what it means in, like, in terms of film, animation, and anime, to this point, because up until this point, well, I'll talk about it from the anime standpoint. Like I said, you know, especially in the Western world, animation was kids stuff. Like, it was just like, oh, you're watching cartoons. Oh, that's so cute. And adults really didn't watch cartoons, and they kind of got, you know, ragged on about it. I can attest to this because I was in high school and watching Sailor Moon and stuff like that, and I kind of got a lot of crap, especially from my siblings. Shalane was not old enough to give me crap about it, but some of the older ones were. And so you just kind of, you know, like, well, whatever. And also, you know, the companies that were localizing anime for a North American audience, they also were kind of like dumbing it down. It's like, oh, this is kids stuff. Even, anyway, we won't go into that. So, but then you have Hayao Miyazaki doing these films, and some of his movies had been brought over to North America, had been dubbed, had been butchered, for no other term that I can think of. In some cases, some of them, like Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, was a particularly egregious example of, because they called it Warriors of the Wind instead, and they like completely changed the story when it came over here, because they're like, oh, you know, we're gonna make it like Power Rangers on you know, wind on gliders, and it's like, no, that's just how that works. And you know, Miyazaki understandably was very displeased by this, but I think then I think Spirited Away, they kept making movies. Ghibli kept making movies, and they kept bringing them over to North America, and it got progressively better. They started like kind of, oh, we just need to leave this alone and let it stand on its own, and not, freak out like, ooh, we can't show Japanese, writing or Japanese cultural stuff. Like they kind of backed off of that. So these dubbing companies and things like that. So this was like, I feel like this was kind of the turning point of, let's not completely Americanize. Well, it wasn't just American companies, it was also Canadian companies, but you know what I mean. Like, you don't need to change the story and the characters so that they're not, because English speakers are too dumb to understand this comes from another country. It's like, no, guys, we can figure this out. So I feel like the movie, the success of Spirited Away, is kind of that turning point where these dubbing companies were like, oh, we don't have to change this because people get it. They understand anime. They understand that this is from Japan. All we need to do, we're just making it so, non-native Japanese speakers, or people who don't speak Japanese, can understand what's going on. And we don't have to touch the story. And so it was like, and I want to say it was like Spirited Away was part of that. Cowboy Bebop was another one that kind of helped fuel that. And there were a couple others, but I think those are kind of. Oh, and Full Metal Alchemist. Jared just walked in and reminded me of that one. But
Dragon Ball.
Well, anyway, so that was those were ones that were kind of doing that. But because Spirited Away was in theaters and it won the animated Oscar, and it was kind of more in the mainstream public view, that now we're like, oh, now we get it. Or people were like, oh, I want to try this out, or I want to understand like all these these folk tales and these stories and these myths and legends that come into this story. And so it just, I feel like it, so I mean, nowadays, you go into Hot Topic, or you go to Box Lunch, at the mall, and or lots of TV channels, they'll have anime playing, and there's all this merch and stuff. And I really do think that this is like the success of Spirited Away in the States and in North America and internationally was like kind of the catalyst for that. And it doesn't, looking back, it's like I didn't really realize it, but it was everywhere. Like it was, and I didn't get to see it in theaters because I wasn't really, I just didn't get to see it in theaters. And then I saw it a few years later. I'm like, oh, now I see what the fuss was about. So that's Spirited Away, of why it was such a big, or why it was such a big deal. And really, like, if you had ever watched any Miyazaki movies before this point, because before this point, I had seen My Neighbor Totoro, and I think I'd seen Kiki's Delivery Service by that point. I don't think I'd seen Princess Mononoke. I don't think that one was out yet. I'm just trying to remember what the timeline of it is, because I'm like, I don't know. But it's like, this movie is a very, it's all parts. At first, it's parts lighthearted, sweet childhood, My Neighbor Totoro romp, but then there's also parts that are very horrific, and there's this very otherworldly feel to it, that you would think would just be terrifying, but also it's kind of wonderful. It's like, you just, I don't really know how else to describe it, because you got this girl, Chihiro, who's been separated from her parents because they gorged themselves on the food and turned into pigs. And at first you think, oh, this is about her trying to rescue her parents, but then it just kind of goes off into this other direction, where now she's trying not to lose herself because the madam of the bathhouse is gonna steal her
name
steal her name away. And so now she has to protect herself and try to overcome all these things. And she meets all these crazy and wonderful people along the way. And it's just, I don't know. It's like equal parts adventure, slice of life, because it's very laid back. There's times like it doesn't feel like the plot is going anywhere, but at the same time you don't care because you're just enjoying this experience of being with this girl in this environment and everything what's going on.
And I read that that's a kind of a Miyazaki type thing. He likes to put moments where the plot's really not moving along. He just wants people to have a chance to like stop and take a breath and like appreciate the world building that's going on and what's going on with these characters. So
and I think you see that like we went and saw Howl's Moving Castle recently, and it's definitely there. I think in Spirited Away it's like because it's a 10-year-old girl and you're like she's so young, she's so little. It's like, no, you are in danger, you've got to get out of here. And she's just like, I'm gonna work here and I'm going to just let things happen as they come. And you're like, okay, well, here we go. But so it is more laid back, but there is also the tension there of, ooh, what's gonna happen? Is she gonna survive? Is it is everything gonna be okay? And it's gonna be okay because it's a Miyazaki film. There are happy endings. It's just you go through a lot to get to that happy ending. So anyway, but because
I mean, it's what's interesting, and I read this looking at our research, that in general Miyazaki does not write scripts. He will do drawings. He'll essentially do like storyboard an entire film, but he doesn't necessarily do a full-on script with lines and stuff. When doing his films, which I found rather interesting. But he knows what he wants and can see it so clearly in his head that he's able to direct the other people working on the film, although he's also very hands-on himself. Which I'm sure helps a lot when you don't have necessarily a script to follow.
It's like the art comes first and then the dialogue and the story and everything else, because he'll do these drawings and things like, oh, I want to put that in the movie. Well, then he does.
But this story came out of a family vacation he went on, and they gone on vacation somewhere with his family and his daughter, and his daughter brought some friends with her, and they're about the same age, 10ish, and he realized that there really wasn't media made for their particular demographic because they're a bit too old for the really just bright colors, no real plot stuff for the super young kids. But they weren't quite preteens or teenagers yet, so they didn't really care about like romance yet. And he's like, I want to make something where the protagonist is about their age and she's just ordinary. She doesn't have special powers. She's not like Kiki, who's a witch and can fly a broom and has a talking cat and stuff. Just a young girl that's just kind of, her parents, she thinks her parents are weird, and they're making her move when she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to leave her friends and her old school and stuff, and she gets thrown into this situation where she really has to do a lot of growing up and learning to come into her own. Like, who is Chihiro as a person? Because before she's just like, she's in the backseat of the car, and she's like, because they're going to their new house, and she's like, somebody finally gives me flowers and it's a goodbye gift. she's like,
and they're already dying.
Yeah, they're already dying. She's so dramatic about everything.
Yeah.
And then
it's that kid thing, like, oh, something bad happens, my entire life is over, and
exactly.
She was the REM. It's the end of the world.
Yeah. So she finds herself in this situation where it's like, yeah, no, dying flowers are the least of your concern. Like, your parents are now pigs, and if you forget who you are, you're going to be here forever. And you might, if there's these things that either want to eat you or beat you up, or just like, there's all these creatures. There's supposed to be different spirits, but then there's also just different things, and not all of them are nice. So she's got,
it's the I was gonna say, it's the concept of they call him Kami. It's Kami. And there's this quote here where Miyazaki's talking about, like, in his grandparents' time, like everybody thought there were spirits or Kami everywhere. And his generation doesn't believe that anymore, but he's like, well, let's kind of bring back that idea of there's something more supernatural, or higher power, whatever you want to call it. There's wonder in the world. We don't have everything pinned down as, this is a scientific explanation for all of these things that are going on. And there's some things that you still should kind of have some wonder about as well. And I love that idea, and I kind of feel like that's kind of the MO of Studio Ghibli, 100%. I think they have that on a plaque somewhere in their offices.
Yeah, just kind of keeping in touch with, like, the fantastical side of the world. It's like, not everything has to be, although depending on, I guess, who you are, there's some interpretations on this particular movie. I've seen some things where it's like, oh, it's some of it's about or it's about environmentalism,
well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I've seen that about a lot of movies, especially Princess Mononoke. But if you look into that movie, especially by the end, the humans are still, mining or logging the area, but they do it in a way that's, like, more harmonious with the world. So it's not like, sometimes I think of environmentalists are like, oh, chain ourselves to the tree, and no, you can't cut it down. But this isn't that sort of thing. And so it's a lot less confrontational and a lot more peaceful, I want to say, and more. I'd even go far to say more realistic, honestly, and just kind of way. And there is definitely some of that in Spirited Away as well. So it's but it's done in a way it's not antagonistic.
I mean, the whole thing with the river spirit, it comes from Miyazaki spent some time helping clean up a local river, and they did literally pull things out of it like a bicycle. What Shishiri thought was just a splinter turned out to be the beginning of a whole mess of just trash that was stuck inside. And so Miyazaki took that and again kind of ran with it. So but it's just, I found myself a little annoyed, especially at the beginning, because I found our lead character rather annoying,
which you're supposed to.
So I'm really glad to see her have some growth. So by the end, when she's reunited with her parents and her mom's like, oh, new school could be kind of scary, she's like, I can handle it. I'm like, good for you.
It's like, by now you can handle anything, honey.
But
really, you are 100% supposed to hate Chihiro at the beginning and just thinks she's annoying and a brat and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And and but she doesn't stay that way, and that's the key. That's the key component. Is she by the end she's the hero. She is very likable, and she's definitely had some growth. And I don't want to say like, oh, you've learned your lesson, but she's better for what she has gone through, and she goes through a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the first time I ever saw this, I had the same thought. I was like, oh my gosh, this kid, I'm gonna smack her.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's not her fault. Like, she's very clumsy, but that's not her fault. She's 10. She's in that awkward. She hasn't got through puberty yet, so she's like all elbows and knees and long gangly limbs and just awkward. But
life. I mean, we haven't quite got there yet, but you're on the cusp of the years where life just sucks. I mean, yeah. Your teenage years or your preteen years, whatever. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So part of me feels bad for her that way. It's like, I'm sorry, but
well, hopefully with the lessons she learned during this adventure, that hopefully some of that'll carry over. So maybe it won't be that bad. But yeah. It's like, you're on the verge of becoming a teenager, and that's gonna suck.
and a female teenager to boot, because teenage girls are awful. I'm sorry. I was a teenage girl.
Me too.
Teenage girls were the worst.
I did some really, really stupid things as a teenage girl. So yeah, no, I totally get that, because life was just that, so I can't fault her too much for some of her things that I found annoying, but yeah, there are a few times where I'm like, oh, if I could reach the screen and just kind of slap you around a little, I'd be like, girl, get a grip. So, but yeah, but I was one thing, because going to this is a long running thing with going to like conventions and stuff, is obviously cosplay is a thing, and obviously anime, very huge fan base. So I've seen a lot of these characters either in cosplay or on shirts or in merchandise, and knew that they were anime, and probably I knew that they were like Studio Ghibli, but beyond that I had no frame of reference. So to finally see like No Face and be like, oh, okay, because like
that's who that is.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I've seen, like, if people haven't seen it, I'll find a link to it and put it in the show notes, the TED Talk that Adam Savage did several years ago about his love for cosplay, and he talks about how he went as No Face to a con once, and for fun he thought it would be cool to have like those little chocolates that are wrapped in the gold foil so they look like coins. So he had those, and he was like, it'd be a fun way to interact with people, like, here, have some gold that's actually chocolate. It says, it's like, oh, good, something to nibble on. But people kept avoiding him when he'd go to hand them a chocolate coin. And it took a while to realize that no, you don't accept anything from No Face, because that puts you essentially in debt to No Face. So once you've taken from No Face, you just want to take more, which is why everybody else in the bathhouse, the minute they start taking this gold, they just want more of it, and they're willing to give No Face whatever he wants. In this case, a bunch of food, anything he can get his grubby little paws on to eat, in exchange for, so these people are just like climbing all over each other, like, I need more gold, and get him some chicken, and get it, whatever. And then you've got Chihiro that's all like, he's like, I got puts like the biggest pile of gold in his hands in front of her face, and she's like, "No, I need to go catch a train." Yeah, do you want?
I have other priorities.
I have other things to do. So, but it was nice. It was nice to finally have that reference to go with it. Like the witch, I've seen her image places. Even the little suitlings.
Oh yeah, the little soot sprites.
The suit sprites, yeah, I've seen them. I was like, oh, that's what they're from. So
yeah, it's kind of funny because Studio Ghibli's like official logo / mascot is Totoro, but and if you but I think No Face and the soot sprites are kind of the unofficial mascot because everybody knows those and loves them. And the funniest thing is at our the library's anime convention, ToshoCon, we have like every year we do crafts and there's all kinds of things, but soot sprites is always one of the things they do, and it's just, you know, you wrap the yarn, cut it, and put little googly eyes on them, and
they're so cute,
and they are adorable, and they're so helpful, and they're so Especially, I always remember that scene when Chihiro, she's leaving like the furnace room, and you know she's putting her shoes back on, and I always remember that because someone pointed out, like, you know, she put her shoes on and then she stops and like taps them on like taps her toes, and like that's just a little detail that, because Miyazaki, like he said, you know, that's how a little girl would put her shoes on, and you know she wouldn't just run off, so he's like actually making her very real. And every time I see the soot sprites, I think of that, and I think of her little toe tap with her shoe. And it's just kind of a weird little detail, or weird little thing that I can always recall when I talk about this movie. But,
yeah. So, what's interesting is, you know, we were talking earlier, Chrissy, about how, you know, the Studio Ghibli was doing okay, but it wasn't necessarily like it is now. And we were talking about how this beat out Lilo and Stitch, among other things, for, you know, best animated feature. But what's interesting of what people may not realize is Spirited Away was kind of like you know, Studio Ghibli's like first like big kind of blockbuster worldwide, and it's because of Disney.
Yeah, John Lasseter and Hayao Miyazaki
had been friends for like 20 years.
Yeah, a very good working relationship, and it was, you know, it was just so sweet to see them like in like interviews or behind the scenes stuff. And you know, Miyazaki, if he speaks any English, he doesn't speak a lot of English, but Lasseter, you know, and the Japanese are just by culture kind of reserved. They don't show a whole lot of emotion. It's just their culture and the way that things are. And you know, Lasseter, he's this big, lovable teddy bear, you know, just, you know, very enthusiastic about things. So it was always very funny to see them side by side. I'm like, you guys are buddies. I love it. But, and you know, he would get so excited about talking about, you know, this is, you know, this is the next movie, and I really love it, and you know, you can tell that they put so much heart and soul into it, and so yeah, so Disney at the time, like they were, I don't know, they had kind of an interesting deal with Studio Ghibli, like kind of to be the distributor for a while, and the Ghibli rights have kind of moved from studio to studio. I think, I want to say they're with Warner Brothers now, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. But Disney had it for a really long time, had the rights to distribute it, which is probably why Davy Chase was the voice of Chihiro in the English dub, because she was doing a lot of stuff with Disney at the time. She was Lilo, among other things.
And Jason Marsden is the voice of Haku.
And Jason Marsden, yeah, and Susan Egan is in it. So or and you'd see a lot
to
of these
me,
movies on
which
these
to me,
channels.
Lynn is essentially Meg.
Pretty much, yeah. She is.
Yeah.
There's so many times where she will say something and they've animated her in a certain way. It's like not that they would have known that too would have done the voice for it, because obviously the Japanese version came first, but it's just one of those things where it just worked out that Lynn has some body language that is very Megira from Hercules, and then she's voiced in the English version by Megira from Hercules. So it's like,
and I wonder if that casting choice in the English version was like, oh, she acts a lot like Meg. How about we see if Susan Egan will do it?
Right.
Well,
and then of course, if John Lasseter is involved, even though this is not a Pixar production, John Ratzenberger is voice.
Yes. and this is still early enough in the Pixar, I guess, timeline that it's kind of like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
it's just funny. It's like, oh, and there's Ratzenberger.
There he is. And it's not a very big part, but it is a memorable one.
But I mean, you hear him and it's like, oh yeah, that's Ratzenberger. So
that's him. There he is.
Yeah. He doesn't necessarily do voices per se. He just kind of does himself, and they make it work.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got if you work well with certain people, by all means, bring them along, because the more people that you get along with and make it work with, the better it is. It's oh my gosh,
there's some other recognizable, and there David Ogden Stiers, who has done a lot of Disney, among other things. Tara Strong, who does everything. So yeah, there's definitely some recognizable like voice actors, but then it's just kind of random, like, oh, Michael Chiklis is gonna be the dad. Like, really? Kind of random, but whatever. So
like, we'll take it.
Yeah,
just go with it.
Yep. So, but yeah, it was like some voices when they'd start talking, like, wait a minute, I know that voice.
Hey, it's that voice.
Yeah. It's that person from that thing.
Let me pull up IMDb real quick.
Yes. It's like, is this the voice I think it is?
Like, who's gonna be the witch and her twin sister? Oh, Suzanne Plachette. Because that makes sense.
Yep.
It's always interesting when the we've only done 2 of the Studio Ghibli, but I know enough about some of the others to be like, when they go to do the English dubs, it's like a combination of voice actors that you just kind of expect to be in everything, like your David Ogden Stiers, your Tara Strongs, but then they'll occasionally grab like a big name and be like, yeah, they're gonna be the voice for this. Like over the summer, Unspooled was doing a mini series of animated films that they hadn't discussed yet, and they were like, well, we need to do a Studio Ghibli movie. And they ended up doing Porco Rosso, which Michael Keaton is the voice of that. He's like, he plays a pig who flies planes.
Yeah,
because it's America, and that's what we do with our movies. So it's like, it's like, yes, let's throw Michael Chiklis in here. Sure, why not?
We'll just do it. It'll be great. That's when Porco Rosso is when I need to watch still. Every time I think, oh, I've watched so many Studio Ghibli movies, I'm like, remember, oh, I've missed that one, I've missed that one, I've missed that one. It's like, I'm working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot.
Yes. And even after Miyazaki retired, he's like, no, I'm coming back and I'm doing another one.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, because he was like,
his...
it's like 97. And he's like, yeah, I might retire after Princess Mononoke. And then suddenly he's all like, no, I'm going to do 5 million more movies. So,
yeah. I was like, no, there were more after that one. I remember.
yeah, there's quite a bit, actually.
Yes. Although I think, don't quote me on this, but I think he is officially retired now. And I mean, the Studio Ghibli is obviously still going strong, but it's just like,
Yeah. Not according to Wikipedia. Their next feature film is due out in 2026, called How Do You Live? And Miyazaki is writing and directing it.
Yeah, see, like I said,
he can't stay retired is the thing. He keeps retiring and then he can't stay retired.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I was like, don't quote me on this, because I heard he was retired, and then it finds out, oh no, he really hasn't.
It looks like he took it looks like he took a break after 2013. And then he was like, no, I'm back.
It's like, no, I've got another one I need to do.
His last credit before that is The Wind Rises, which was 2013. And so
yeah, it's like, this is why I can't keep up with the movies, because he retires and then he's like, no, and then he unretires and does another one.
Yeah,
which I'm not going to complain about, because I love I love his work, and some of his other like what do you call them, proteges, I suppose, or his successors. They do good work too. Like there's one called Belle that I still need to watch, but it looks so good, it's so beautiful. Basically, it's about virtual reality, which given the popularity of isekai kind of doesn't surprise me, but I think it's the way that this one is that is different than just, oh, I died and was reincarnated as a video game character. It's not quite that.
And it looks like his son is at least stepping in every now and then, so in some spots. So, but yeah, the man just can't stay retired.
No, he really can't. I'm okay with, but
him, I'm okay with that. It's others, the people that can't stay retired. You know who you are, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Well, that's
sports ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's his own fault. But anyway, back to people we like not staying retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and I'm like, you know what? If his prowess at movie making and animation stays at the level it has been, and he's like in his 80s now, I do believe. I mean, he still got it. He's still capable of making these great movies. So you know what? I'm if he's still gonna make movies, I will still watch them, because yeah, you can definitely tell a Miyazaki film from any other, pretty much. And I mean, someone asked him if what he thought of being called the Japanese Walt Disney, and I think he kind of took it as an insult, but I think it was because he thought they were talking about, like, oh, are you like the company Disney rather than the man Walt Disney. And I think, for all intents and purposes, and I mean this in the best way possible, like, if he and Walt could sit down and have a conversation about just animation and all these things, I think they would have a lot of common ground, honestly. Just from a standpoint of doing something new, doing something innovative, storytelling, artistic quality, and things like that. So I think, for a while, like, having the distribution rights go to Disney was quite fitting. I don't know if I would agree with that quite so much these days, but it was just, yeah, at the time it was like, this is kind of cool. And also the fact that I think Spirited Away, its success, like I said, it kind of kicked Disney in the pants to be like, hey, they're beating you because you need to make better stuff. And so I think that might have been a little bit of motivation. I can't say for sure, but it kind of feels that way. So, keep doing what you're doing, Ghibli, because there needs to be competition. And this movie goes to show, like, as steeped in Japanese folklore and culture and references as it is, it's like, yeah, people, English speaking audiences will turn up for that. And so, we get it. Don't have to dumb it down for us. We appreciate that. Please and thank you. That's why we like anime. For its Japanese-ness. Don't need to change it.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So yeah, if you have not seen Spirited Away, or if it's been a while since you've watched it, it's not necessarily a Halloween movie, but
it's got witches and
yeah,
kind of creepy stuff. So
yeah, like I said, there are some scary, spooky elements to it, but very light.
There's some blood.
And yeah, there's blood. Oh geez, like watch Princess Mononoke sometime.
Yeah.
You got people getting their heads shot off and anyway, never mind. But yeah, so honestly, any time's a good time for a Ghibli movie. Just put one on and you'll feel better. You'll feel better about life. So yeah, if it's been a while or you've never seen it, very highly recommended. This is one of those times where I agree wholeheartedly with the Academy. Spirited Away definitely deserved the Oscar that year. So.
Yeah, I mean it won the top prize at the Berlin Film Festival, the Golden Bear, which was the first time in 50 years for an animated feature to win that prize. It unseated Titanic as the highest grossing film in Japan. It was one of the first animated features to earn over $200 million before it opened in the United States.
Wowza.
Yep. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I think it did pretty good for itself. I can't say it's one I would necessarily want to watch again. Again, it's kind of like Lilo and Stitch, where it's just like some of it's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the animation with some of this that just like it's not that I find it, it's not like it's disgusting or anything, but it's just like there's just something about the animation style for some, especially the witch. I don't know what it was at the witch that I struggled to look at her. There's something very off-putting about her.
This is how I kind of describe anime, but Miyazaki especially his style. It's very simple, but it's also very detailed. So it's probably, just how much detail there is on her face and how exaggerated it is.
Maybe.
And also kind of the movement, because anime, just in general, they make it, it has a different, I don't think it's frame rate, but things kind of move in a different way. It's not as fluid as Western animation.
I mean, I'm okay with that, because like I really liked Kiki's Delivery Service, and that's probably one I would watch again.
Yeah.
But there's just something about this one that's just like, I don't know what it is, but my brain is is kind of struggling to process it, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of different levels on this one, and some of them like your brain is thinking like I need to understand this better, and it took me a while to kind of understand what it was going for. Part of that's a cultural thing, like I just didn't understand like folk tales or the mythology and the legends behind it, and I still don't fully understand it, even though I have read some things about it.
And they tried they tried to put some stuff in there knowing full and well that the American audience wouldn't necessarily get. It's like the references to like some very cultural things, like the different spirits, and Americans may not know what a bathhouse looks like just by looking at it. So they purposely had, the character when she comes across it, she's like, oh, it's a bathhouse, So putting stuff in the dialogue for us dumb Americans that don't know about any culture outside of our own borders. But
well, I mean, there's no way you can know everything about every culture everywhere.
True.
So that kind of thing I'm okay
and the
with.
internet was not really the internet was still in its infancy at this point, so it's not like we could go
I mean, I'm not trying to be like, oh no, Rachel, you have to love this. Like if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I totally understand that.
I mean, I look forward to trying some more. I know again, because there's some characters that I recognize that I don't necessarily have a frame of reference. Like I know Totoro when I see it. I know the cat bus when I see it. I know Ponyo when I see the fish, but I don't really have a frame of reference as far as the story is concerned. So
well, Ponyo, I'll tell you, it's basically the Little Mermaid, just without the witch and the cutting your legs off or whatever. But so I mean, there Ghibli movies, it runs the gamut from super cute and super adorable to actiony, kind of dark and spooky sort of thing. I kind of like if I'm thinking like My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service are like the sweet, innocent, fluffy ones that are still really that are really good, and then there's Princess Mononoke, which is violent and dark and stuff. This one is sort of a blend of the two, and it blends very well, I think, together. So I don't know if you like more or the more on one side or the other of the spectrum. I don't know how much you will enjoy this a lot, but it's also one that's like, it's kind of like if you're going to be a student of film, whether or not you enjoy this one, you still should watch it just to say, oh yeah, okay, I get why, or try to understand why it is so successful and highly regarded, which we have done. So even if you never watch it again, you can say, no, I've watched it.
Yep. It's kind of like The Godfather. I've seen it. I get it. Moving on. Although I'd probably watch this over The Godfather.
Well, and there are some other.
It's a lot shorter for one thing.
That helps. That definitely helps. But well, no. We'll have to watch some more Ghibli movies just because there are so many, and they are all of them, and it just kind of has like the Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic scores, and and like I don't think there is a score. Oh, apparently, never mind. We're gonna. That was not a Hayao Miyazaki. That's his son. Sorry, I was like, there's not a Rotten Tomatoes score under down in the night below the 80s, and I scroll down like, oh, there's one that's 29. Oh, that one was made by his son. But
like I said, his son's trying. I didn't say he was.
But not.
That's why he keeps coming out of retirement.
Apparently.
Let Papa show you how it's done, my boy.
I mean, Goro Miyazaki, he did do Come Up on Poppy Hill, and that one is very, very well regarded. So I will say that. It's just some reason Earthsea and Earwig and the Witch, which I haven't heard of that one. So those ones apparently did not do so well. Anyway, I'm just jabbering here because I'm like, I need to go watch all the Miyazaki I get my hands on.
And then we can all go to the theme park together.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was funny. When we went to see Howl's Moving Castle, they did this sort of featurette before the movie, and it was this interview at the Ghibli Museum, and the museum is like made to look like a Ghibli movie, which you're kind of like, how?
Right.
But it also is like, I just want to live here. But apparently they only take it by appointment, and it's in Japan, and appointments are very expensive. And I'm like, that ain't gonna happen unless I win the lottery.
But then the amusement park is due to open in November, or at least the first phase of it is due to open in November.
Yeah. So yeah, gonna have to check that out, or I'll just have to be okay with dressing up as Kiki for Halloween. Although not this year, we're doing Mario this year. Yeah. But I'm like, I have a black dress. I can get a red bow and a broom and a stuffed cat. I can be. So, anyway, anyone else have anything they want to talk about? Because I'll just sit here and be like, I love these movies.
Considering this is like my second or third Ghibli movie, I'm enjoying them. So more, please.
I don't know if I want to throw Princess Mononoke at Rachel just yet.
We'll work our way up to it.
Howl's Moving Castle is a good one. Ponyo's a lot of fun. We'll have to do My Neighbor Totoro at some point though, because that one is a classic. We'll get there.
Okay.
So
it's a deal.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it. All right. So if any of our listeners want to chime in with their thoughts on Spirited Away or any of the Ghibli catalog or anything else we talked about in this podcast episode, you can send us some feedback. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com, and find links to our social media sites. You can leave comments. We have a Facebook, we have a YouTube channel, we have an Instagram, and any comments we get there, we will read them off as a feedback. Why not? And then also, if you want to support the podcast monetarily, we have a Patreon, we have a Ko-Fi, and we have a merch shop. So you can find links to that in our website as well. And you can download the podcast at all major podcast apps and places where you get podcasts. So there you go. You have no excuse. And of course, we're very appreciative, and we thank you for your support. We thank you for commenting and listening, and the Patreon support, and just being there, being our audience, and enjoying what we do. So hopefully everybody is having a good time. Take care out there.
Yep. Those of you that are going to be going out with the little ones trick-or-treating on Halloween or whatever, obviously Halloween's on a Monday. Some places might do it on a different day. So whenever you're going to go out trick-or-treating in the next week or so, please be careful.
Yes. Go, don't take any wooden nickels, as they say.
Yeah.
And don't go into any haunted houses either.
Yes, really.
But enjoy yourselves and have fun.
Yeah. Try not to eat all the candy in one sitting. You'll get a tummy ache.
Right. But have a good Halloween, and we'll see you back here.
Yep. All right. With that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Once you meet someone, you never really forget them. You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefivishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.